The corridor of the human vessel Harmony gleamed with a polished sterility that Ambassador Ryentalia found reassuring. At least humans maintained proper sanitation protocols, unlike the rumors suggested. She adjusted her formal diplomatic sash, a shimmering violet fabric that denoted her status among the Vordaxian elite council, and continued her self-guided tour, antennae gently swaying with each precise step. The human Captain Thorne had offered a guided introduction to their ship, but Rin had politely declined. Observation without interference yielded the most authentic insights, as any proper xenoanthropologist knew. Her mission was clear: assess human suitability for expanded trade relations and potential military alliance against the encroaching Nelvorian horde. Cabin designations follow numerical sequence, she murmured to herself, consulting the ship's schematic on her translucent wrist device. Crew quarters 4A through 4F are currently unoccupied according to the ship's cycle rotation. Perfect, an opportunity to observe human living habits undisturbed by their awareness of being watched. Vordaxians valued privacy above almost all else, but understanding how humans organized their personal spaces would provide valuable cultural insights. Rin approached cabin 4D, nodding the door was slightly ajar, another confirmation it was unoccupied. She slipped inside with practiced silence, her four-fingered hand deftly preventing the door from making any sound as it closed behind her. The cabin was dimly lit by small ambient lights along the baseboards. Rin's specialized eyes adjusted instantly, taking in the curious arrangements of personal effects. A framed photograph of a sunset over what appeared to be Earth's Martian colony. A small potted plant with unusual purple foliage. A collection of bound paper items. Books, humans called them, an inefficient but apparently cherished information storage method. She moved further into the room, making mental notes for her report, when a sound from the adjoining chamber caught her attention. A soft, rhythmic noise, almost like the ventilation system, but organic. Rin froze, her antennae stiffened in alarm. Someone was here. Protocol demanded immediate withdrawal, but curiosity, her one professional weakness, compelled her forward. She took 3 silent steps toward the partially open doorway and peered inside. Her violet eyes widened in shock. Sprawled across a sleep platform was a human male, entirely devoid of coverings or artificial skin layers. The ship's environmental lighting cast a soft blue glow over his exposed form as he slumbered peacefully, unaware of her presence. Rin felt her facial scales flush with heat, a physiological response she hadn't experienced since her academy days. She had studied human anatomy, of course, but clinical diagrams hardly prepared one for the reality of an actual unclothed specimen. She began a careful retreat, mentally composing the apology she would never deliver because no one would ever know about this breach of protocol. But as she stepped backward, her ceremonial sash caught on a protrusion from the wall, some type of coat-securing device, and dislodged a metallic object that clattered loudly to the floor. The ship's automated system immediately responded. Unauthorized presence DETCTED in crew quarters, ID and TIFYNG. The human's eyes snapped open. "Computer lights," he commanded, bolting upright. Harsh illumination flooded the room, revealing Rin in all her 7-foot, violet-scaled diplomatic glory. Antennae now flattened against her head in unmistakable Vordaxian embarrassment. The human stared at her for a frozen moment before grabbing for a covering. "What the hell?" "Commander Elias Blackwood identified," announced the computer. "Unknown biosignature detected." Rin began, her translator struggling to convey the proper nuance of mortification. "There appears to have been a significant error in the quartering assignments. I was informed this cabin was unoccupied." Commander Blackwood, now partially covered with a thin fabric, looked bewildered and irritated. "This is my cabin, has been for 3 years, and you are." "Ambassador Ryentalia, Vordaxian Elite Council," she replied, drawing herself up to her full height despite her humiliation. "I have been assigned to the Harmony as part of the Galactic Cooperation Initiative." Recognition dawned in his eyes. "The diplomatic envoy, you're supposed to be in the starboard wing ambassador suites." His expression shifted from confusion to something Rin couldn't quite identify, amusement perhaps, not sneaking around crew quarters. "I was not sneaking," Rin said indignantly. "I was conducting cultural observation." "Is that what you call watching someone sleep naked?" he asked, one eyebrow raised. Rin's antennae coiled tightly in mortification. This encounter was entirely accidental and deeply regrettable. Commander Blackwood's mouth twitched. Well, Ambassador, I believe we've just established a first in human-Vordaxian relations. It was going to be a very long diplomatic mission. 3 days after what Commander Blackwood had taken to calling the incident, Ryantalia found herself seated across from him in Conference Room B, reviewing security protocols for the upcoming diplomatic summit. She kept her posture rigidly formal, antennae perfectly still, a Vordaxian signal of professional detachment. The Tellurian delegation requires separate accommodations from the Jovian representatives, she stated, refusing to acknowledge the way Blackwood's mouth quirked slightly whenever their eyes met. Historical tensions remain unresolved since the Europa mining dispute. Noted, Blackwood replied, making an annotation on his tablet. And will Ambassador Ryantalia require any special accommodations, perhaps clearer signage on personal quarters? His eyes sparkled with mischief. Rin's scales darkened slightly along her neck, the Vordaxian equivalent of a blush. Your attempt at humor is unnecessary, Commander. I have already submitted my formal apology to Captain Thorne. Who found it hilarious, by the way, Blackwood added, though she did reprogram the ship's AI to prevent future cultural observations of sleeping crew members. On my world, acknowledging such an incident would only compound the dishonor, Rin said stiffly. The matter would be considered closed through mutual silence. Blackwood leaned back in his chair, studying her. That's fascinating, actually. Humans tend to process embarrassment through humor. Talking about it, sometimes excessively, helps us move past it. By continuously referencing one's shame, inefficient. Maybe, he conceded, but effective in its own way, elephant in the room and all that. Rin's antennae twitched in confusion. There is no megafauna present. To her surprise, Blackwood didn't laugh at her misunderstanding. Instead, he explained the idiom patiently and found himself elaborating on several others. Before long, they had abandoned the security protocols entirely and were deep in discussion about linguistic differences. So your language has no words for accidental humor? Blackwood asked, genuinely curious. Vordaxian humor is primarily based on mathematical precision and logical paradoxes, Rin explained. The concept of finding embarrassment amusing is foreign. Yet another reason humans probably confuse you, Blackwood said. You are, Rin searched for the right word, unpredictable. On my world, sleeping quarters are sacred spaces. No Vordaxian would ever allow themselves to be vulnerable in an unsecured environment. You mean sleeping naked? I mean sleeping at all, she corrected. Unconsciousness in a shared vessel would be unthinkable without a personal security field and at least 2 armed guards. Blackwood's expression changed. That sounds exhausting. Don't you ever just relax? Relaxation is scheduled during designated recreation intervals, Rin replied automatically, then paused, hearing how strange that must sound to him. Scheduled relaxation, Blackwood repeated. No wonder you're so... He gestured vaguely at her rigid posture. So what, Commander? Her antennae flared slightly. Tense, like you're carrying the weight of your entire species on those impressive shoulders. The observation struck uncomfortably close to truth. As a third-generation elite council member, Rin had always felt the pressure of her family's expectations. The success of this mission has significant implications, she said quietly. The Vordaxian Council remains unconvinced that humans are reliable allies. Blackwood nodded slowly. And what do you think, Ambassador, after your close-up cultural observation? The teasing in his voice was gentler now. Rin considered him, this human who could shift from professional to playful in moments, who explained idioms without condescension, who slept unguarded in the vastness of space. I think, she said carefully, that I have insufficient data to form a conclusion. Well then, Blackwood said, rising from his chair with a smile that Rin found oddly warming, we'll just have to make sure you collect more data, starting with teaching you how humans actually relax. He gestured toward the door. The recreation deck has just been renovated. First lesson in human culture, bowling. Against her better judgment, Rin found herself following him. Warning, spatial anomaly detected. All non-essential systems diverted to shields. the ship's AI announced as red alert lights bathed the corridor in crimson. Rin steadied herself against the wall as the Harmony shuddered violently. She had been heading to the observatory when the anomaly hit, a rare opportunity to view a stellar phenomenon that resembled Vordax Prime's famous twice dawn. Now she found herself sprinting toward the bridge instead. She arrived to find organized chaos. Captain Thorne barking orders, officers rushing between stations, and Commander Blackwood hunched over the communications array, face illuminated by error messages. "Subspace channels are compromised," he reported. "We're cut off from both Earth Command and the Vordaxian Council." Rin moved swiftly to his side. "Allow me to assist." Blackwood glanced up, surprise evident on his features. "Do Vordaxian diplomats double as communications experts?" "This diplomat does," she replied, her fingers already dancing across the console. "Before diplomatic service, I specialized in quantum entanglement communications." For the next 3 hours, they worked in seamless tandem. Rin's technical knowledge complemented Blackwood's intuitive understanding of the ship's systems. When standard procedures failed, they improvised, something that would have been unthinkable to Rin mere weeks ago. "Try revering the polarity on the auxiliary array while I recalibrate the quantum frequency," she suggested, her antennae vibrating with intensity. "That's not in any manual I've read," Blackwood said, already implementing her suggestion. "No, it's something I thought of just now." The admission felt strangely liberating. The console suddenly flared to life, a stable connection established. Captain Thorne called from across the bridge. "Whatever you two did, it worked, holding steady at 87% signal integrity." In the momentary respite that followed, Rin became acutely aware of how close she stood to Blackwood. His shoulder pressed against hers, his breathing still rapid from their shared urgency. He smelled of what she had come to recognize as coffee and that distinctly human scent that was uniquely his. "We make a good team, Ambassador," he said quietly. "Indeed, Commander," she found herself unable to move away. "Your adaptability is impressive." "High praise from a Vordaxian," he replied with a small smile. "I thought your people considered human improvisation to be reckless." "Perhaps I am revising certain assessments," Rin admitted. The ship shuddered again, breaking the moment. They turned back to their work, but something had shifted between them, a new respect, a deeper understanding. Later, when the crisis had passed, and the Harmony sailed smooth again through the stars, Captain Thorne called them both to her ready room. "Your quick thinking saved us hours of vulnerability," she told them. "Ambassador, I didn't realize you had such technical expertise." "Vordaxians value comprehensive education," Rin replied modestly. "Well, I'm officially assigning you two to work together on improving our interspecies communication protocols," Thorne announced. "Commander Blackwood could use some Vordaxian precision, and Ambassador," her eyes twinkled knowingly, "perhaps you might benefit from a little human flexibility." As they left the ready room, Blackwood turned to her. "Dinner, to celebrate our successful collaboration." 2 weeks ago, Rin would have declined, citing protocol violations. Now she found herself nodding. "I would find that acceptable." His grin made her scales warm in a way that had nothing to do with embarrassment. The diplomatic reception aboard the Harmony glittered with representatives from 12 worlds. Rin stood near the viewport, watching stars streak by as the ship maintained its elegant warp. She wore formal Vordaxian attire, iridescent scales left deliberately exposed at her shoulders and neck, symbolizing trust among allies. 6 weeks into the mission, she had come to appreciate many human customs, though their tendency toward excessive physical contact still bewildered her. Even now, diplomats embraced, shook hands, and stood in what Vordaxians would consider intimate proximity. "Credit for your thoughts?" Elias Blackwood appeared beside her, resplendent in his dress uniform. "Commander," she acknowledged, her antennae betraying her pleasure at his arrival with a gentle sway. "I was observing human greeting rituals." "Still conducting research," he teased. "Always," she allowed a small smile, another human habit she'd adopted. "Your species touches constantly, it remains perplexing." "We're a tactile bunch," he agreed, "though I've noticed you're less rigid about your personal space these days." He was right. During their now daily meetings, she no longer maintained the traditional Vordaxian distance of 2 arm lengths. Yesterday, their fingers had brushed while exchanging data tablets, and she hadn't recoiled. Working closely with humans requires certain adaptations, she said. Across the room, the ship's string quartet began playing. Several couples moved to the center of the floor. Dancing, Rin observed, another custom involving sanctioned physical contact. It's more than that, Elias said, watching the dancers. It's communication without words, a connection. He turned to her, extending his hand. Would you like to try, for research purposes, of course? Rin hesitated. Vordaxians did not dance. Physical expression of emotion was considered primitive, yet something in Elias' warm gaze made her curious. I lack the necessary skills, she confessed. I'll teach you, just follow my lead. Her violet hand looked striking against his tanned human skin as she placed it in his. He guided her to the edge of the dancing area, positioning them carefully. Hand here, he directed, placing her palm on his shoulder. I'll keep a respectful distance. But as they began to move, Rin found herself stepping closer, fascinated by the rhythm they created together. Her natural Vordaxian grace quickly adapted to the movements, and soon they were gliding smoothly among the other dancers. You're a natural, Elias murmured, his breath warm against her antennae. It is unexpectedly pleasant, she admitted. His hand at her waist felt right somehow. Her exoskeletal plates were sensitive there, detecting his body heat through her ceremonial robes. The sensation sent pleasant ripples across her scales. Rin, he said softly, using her personal name for the first time. I've never met anyone like you. That is statistically obvious, Commander. I am the first Vordaxian diplomat assigned to a human vessel. He laughed, the sound vibrating through her. Not what I meant. As they turned, the ship's lights dimmed momentarily as they passed through an energy field, casting them in soft blue luminescence reminiscent of that first accidental meeting. Their eyes met in shared memory. You have altered my understanding of humans, Rin said quietly, of connection between different beings. His eyes softened. Is that diplomat speak for I like you? Perhaps, she allowed, feeling strangely vulnerable. Vordaxians do not typically acknowledge such personal reactions. But you feel them. More intensely than expected, she admitted. The music faded, but neither moved to break apart. Around them, the reception continued, but they had created their own private universe in the midst of the gathering. Would it violate any sacred Vordaxian protocols if I told you I haven't stopped thinking about you since the day you invaded my quarters? Elias asked, his voice low. Several, Rin replied, her antennae curling forward, a gesture of intimacy no human would recognize. But I find I am increasingly willing to reconsider certain protocols. His smile then was worth every violation. The ship's observatory dome offered an unobstructed view of the cosmos, currently showcasing the spectacular nebula they were passing. Swirls of cosmic dust and newborn stars painted the darkness in blues, purples, and golds, coincidentally the colors of both Earth's and Vordax Prime's flags. Rin sat beside Elias on the observation bench, closer than protocol would ever permit. In the 2 months since the incident, everything had changed. Tomorrow, the Harmony would dock at Centauri Station, marking the official end of this diplomatic mission. The Vordaxian Council has requested my full report, Rin said, breaking their comfortable silence. They will expect a comprehensive analysis of human suitability for extended alliance. And what will Ambassador Ryantalia tell them? Elias asked, his fingers interlaced with hers, another protocol violation she had come to treasure. That humans are chaotic, unpredictable, and frequently irrational, she began, feeling his hand tense slightly in hers. Her antennae curved in amusement as she continued, and that these qualities make them exceptionally valuable allies. Your adaptability, creativity, and emotional intelligence complement Vordaxian structure and precision. His relieved smile warmed her. High praise indeed, but what about Commander Blackwood? What's your assessment of him? Rin turned to face him fully. That he has compromised my objectivity irreparably. Is that so terrible? He asked softly. By Vordaxian standards, catastrophic. She reached up, her violet fingers tracing the contour of his jaw. By my newly revised standards, perhaps the most valuable discovery of this mission. The nebula's light played across his features as he leaned closer. I've been authorized to offer you a permanent position as liaison aboard the Harmony. Captain Thorne was quite insistent, actually. And if I were to accept such a position, Rin said carefully, would it be primarily professional in nature? Elias smiled. I think we both know we've moved well beyond primarily professional, Ambassador. Their first kiss was hesitant, a bridge between worlds, physiologies, cultures, her scaled lips against his soft human ones, different yet perfectly complementary. When they separated, Rin's antennae were vibrating with emotion. There is much to consider. The Council may not approve of such intimate diplomatic relations. Then we'll figure it out, Elias said with that uniquely human confidence she had come to rely on. My next assignment could take me to the Vordaxian sector, or we could request joint posting at Centauri Station. You would consider leaving your ship? Rin asked, surprised. Your home. Home isn't always a place, he said simply. Sometimes it's a person. The concept resonated within her in ways she couldn't fully articulate. Throughout her life, duty and protocol had defined her path. Now, looking at this human who had disrupted every carefully laid plan, she found herself contemplating a different definition of purpose. There will be challenges, she warned. Physiological differences, cultural misunderstandings, political complications. Sounds exciting, he replied with a grin. Besides, we've already handled the most awkward first meeting in diplomatic history. It's all easier from here. Rin laughed, a sound she rarely made before meeting him. Your optimism is contagious. Is that a yes to sticking around? Outside the viewport, a shooting star streaked across the nebula, what humans considered a sign of good fortune. Yes, Rin said, making the most impulsive decision of her structured life. I believe the universe has more to teach us both. As their lips met again beneath the cosmic light show, Ambassador Ryantalia reflected that sometimes the most important discoveries came from unexpected quarters. She had boarded this ship to assess human compatibility with Vordaxian interests. Instead, she had found something far more valuable, a connection that transcended species, a bridge between worlds, and a love that defied prediction. Protocol would simply have to adapt,